In open play middle third, Brazil were building the game in back four. In open play, Serbia were pressing its sole man, so there was a 4 versus 1 situation in front of Serbian frontman, and the Brazilian centre backs were easily carrying the ball and going forward. Brazil were using sole pivot, and that was Casemiro. Serbia's second line consisted of two players, creating a 2 versus 1 situation in front of Brazil's pivot, and Brazil's pivot was not able to receive the ball, so Brazil's pivot was isolated, and Brazil's centre backs were forced to play game from wide. Neymar and Paqueta were operating between the lines. Serbia's third line was operating center and narrow, so Neymar and Paqueta were unable to receive the ball between the line. On the other hand, Brazil's winger and striker were operating high, so Serbia's third line had a 4 versus 2 play number advantage. If Neymar and Paqueta were operating between the lines, then Serbia's third line was easily cutting off Brazilian centre backs. So in the middle third, Neymar and Paqueta were dropping in to receive the ball in the half space. When the ball was a bit deep in the middle third, the Serbian wingbacks were operating in the half space alongside the Serbian midfielder, and they were covering Neymar and Paqueta. But while the Brazilian defender were going forward carrying the ball, the Serbian wingbacks were going backward and joining the Serbian backline. With the wingbacks joining the backline, the Serbian wingbacks could defend one-on-one against the Brazilian wingers. Because the Serbian wingback moved back and the Serbian midfielder was positioned in the half space on Neymar, the fullback had the space into the wide zone. Because Serbia were defending in back 5, so when the Brazilian fullback had the ball, the Serbian wingback was jumping up and closing down the Brazilian fullback, and the Brazilian wide back was drifting wide and defending Brazilian winger one-on-one. You can see here the Serbian defensive line was drifting towards the left hand side when the Serbian wingback were in high position. Because Serbia were defending in back 5, Serbia were 4v3 in front of Brazilian front line, even though one of the Serbian defender was out of position. The Brazilian striker was 2v1 in front of Serbian wide back and central defender, and the Brazilian winger was one-on-one against the Serbian wide back. Now, what was the role of Brazilian left back and why he was so much getting space on the center of the pitch? The left back of Brazil was playing inverted in open play. It was centrally 3 versus 1 situation in front of Serbia's center forward due to the Brazil left back playing inverted. Serbia's second line was not able to cover Brazil right back due to the narrow operating of Serbia's second line, and the Brazilian fullback was easily receiving the ball in the inside channel. Neymar and Paqueta were operating central, so Neymar and Paqueta were one-on-one in front of Serbian midfielder. So while Brazil right back was receiving the ball, Serbia's second line was drifting wide. Now Neymar and Paqueta's position was on right hand side, so when Neymar and Paqueta were moving towards right hand side, they were dragging the Serbian midfielder. Now Serbia's second line and third line were on the right hand side, so when the ball switched from the right to left hand side, Danilo was free to receive the ball and he had space to drive the ball. The Brazilian winger was operating high and wide in the final third, and the Brazilian fullback was also pushing high. Due to the position of Brazilian winger and fullback being in the wide zone, the Brazilian winger and fullback were dragging the Serbian wingback and midfielder, and Brazil pivot was holding up Serbia's second line, and Paqueta was one-on-one with Serbia's second midfielder, so Neymar was free to receive the ball in the half space to penetrate Serbia. As you can see, Neymar drifting wide was creating a 3 versus 2 situation in the wide zone. Now Neymar was free in the wide zone, and the wingback and midfielder were one-on-one with Brazilian winger and fullback. So seeing Neymar free, the Serbian wide back was forced to press Neymar, and if he was committed on Neymar, then there was a hole in the defense. As we discussed, Brazil were building the game in back four in open play. The position of the Serbian second line was mostly central, so when the Brazilian fullback had the ball in the wide zone, there was no pressure on the Brazilian fullback. So while the Brazilian fullback was receiving the ball, the Serbian wingback was ready to press Brazilian fullback. Because the Serbian wingback was committed to the Brazilian fullback, there was a space in the right channel behind the Serbian wingback. So when the Serbian wingback committed to the Brazilian fullback, the Serbian wide back was moving to the right hand side to cover the Brazilian winger. So if the ball was played over the Serbian wingback, the Serbian wide back would have been able to deal one-on-one with the Brazilian winger.